The unseen rhythm of winter. The Indiana winter bit with a familiar, cruel precision. In West Lafayette, it wasn't just cold. It was a bone-aching, spirit-dampening chill that seeped into everything, painting the world in shades of brittle gray. From the kitchen window, Min-ji watched the last vestiges of twilight bleed from the sky, taking with it the already anemic daylight. The bare branches of the oak tree in their front yard scratched against the bruised purple canvas, a skeletal counterpoint to the hum of the furnace struggling against the encroaching frost. Her breath plumed in faint clouds, even inside the supposedly warm house, a constant reminder of the world outside, a world that felt both vast and isolating. Tonight, the wind was particularly merciless, a banshee wail that rattled the panes and snaked through the minuscule cracks around the doorframes. Beneath it, she could hear the rhythmic thud-thud-thud from the garage, Jun's nightly ritual. It had been the soundtrack to their lives for years, the insistent drumbeat of a boy's dream. Stephen Curry, he'd declared, eyes alight with an almost terrifying intensity, was his destiny. And Min-ji, ever the silent architect of his ambitions, had cleared out half the garage, enduring the icy blast that accompanied his open-door practice sessions. Tonight, she knew, the concrete floor would be frigid, and the air thick with his visible breath, but he wouldn't stop. He never did. A knot tightened in Min-ji's stomach, a familiar clenching that had become a constant companion since June started high school basketball. Varsity tryouts had been a disaster. He'd come home, shoulders slumped, a mask of adolescent fury plastered across his face, muttering about unfair coaches and racial bias. Min-ji had listened, her own heart a raw wound, knowing the unspoken truth. June had tried too hard, wanted too much, too fast. He'd launched three-pointers with a desperation that bordered on recklessness, ignoring open teammates, tripping over his own eagerness, and ultimately spraining his ankle. Selfish player, the coach had called him. The words had stung Min-ji more than they had June, sinking into her like shards of black ice. She remembered the way his small hand had gripped hers when they first arrived in West Lafayette, a nervous 5-year-old in a bewildering new land. She remembered the endless hours of English lessons, the quiet anxieties about fitting in, the subtle slights masked as misunderstandings. Every achievement of his felt like a small victory for her, a testament to her unseen labor. The countless nights spent deciphering school forms, volunteering for PTA events where she understood only half the conversation, and driving him to practices in a borrowed minivan, always with a thermos of warm barley tea and a carefully packed snack. These were the invisible threads she wove, the silent sacrifices that formed the bedrock of his visible successes. The clatter of pots as she prepared dinner felt strangely loud in the quiet house, each sound amplified by the cold. She thought of her own mother, miles away in Seoul, who had worked equally hard, if not harder, to send Min-ji to America. The echoes of generations of women, each pouring their lives into the next, resonated in the chill air. This was the inheritance, the silent gospel of perseverance, passed down through the calloused hands and weary hearts of mothers. Later, after a quiet dinner where June picked at his food, still sulking, Min-ji found him in the garage. The air was thick with the metallic tang of cold, the faint scent of rubber from the basketball, and the palpable tension emanating from her son. He was shooting free throws now, the rhythmic swish-thud a more subdued sound than his earlier furious dribbling. "Juna," she began softly, her voice barely a whisper against the wind's howl. He flinched, startled, the ball bouncing away. "Mom," he mumbled, not meeting her eyes. She sat on a worn plastic crate, pulling her thick cardigan tighter around her. "The coach, he said you were selfish." Jun's head snapped up, his eyes flashing with indignation. "He's just biased, Mom. He doesn't understand. I need to show him I can shoot like Curry." Min-ji watched him, her heart aching. Stephen Curry didn't become Stephen Curry by only shooting three-pointers, Juna. He built his game piece by piece. He learned to pass, to defend, to understand the rhythm of the team. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes, to lead, you first have to follow. To be seen, you have to do the unseen. He looked at her, his anger slowly deflating, replaced by a raw vulnerability she knew all too well. "But Mom, I just want to play. I want to be good." "You are good, my son," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "But what kind of good? The kind that shines bright for a moment and then flickers out? Or the kind that builds something strong, Something lasting, something for everyone. She pulled her knees to her chest, remembering her own early days in America, the constant pressure to prove herself, to speak perfectly, to earn her place. She had learned, slowly, that true strength wasn't always about the grand gestures. It was in the quiet acts of resilience, the patient learning, the willingness to serve. It was in the hegiomai, the humble act of calculating one's true position, not just one's desired one. Sometimes, she continued, the most important work is the work no one sees. The rebound, the assist, the defense, the way you make sure everyone else can shine. That's not selfish, Jana. That's being steadfast. That's building a team, a community. That's being a foundation. Jun was quiet for a long time, his gaze fixed on the scuffed basketball at his feet. The wind howled outside, a constant, mournful refrain. He looked small, suddenly, in the cavernous garage, his dreams momentarily overshadowed by the harsh realities of the world. Min-ji felt a familiar surge of fierce love and protectiveness, a desire to shield him from every disappointment. But she knew that growth often came through the sting of failure, the bitter taste of truth. "What if I'm not good enough?" he finally whispered, the words barely audible. "Then you become good enough," she replied, her voice unwavering. "Not by demanding to be the star, but by becoming indispensable. By doing the unseen labor until no one can ignore you, not because of your flash, but because of your fortitude." The days that followed were a slow, quiet transformation. Jun still practiced in the garage, but the frantic urgency was gone. The focus shifted. Min-ji noticed him coming home with scraped knees and bruised elbows, not from spectacular dunks, but from diving for loose balls in JV practice. He started arriving home later, offering to help the coaches carry equipment, filling water bottles, even sweeping the gym floor after practice. His complaints about the coach ceased. Instead, he talked about how he'd set a pick for a teammate or gotten a crucial defensive stop. His name didn't appear in the local paper's sports section, but Min-ji saw a new kind of light in his eyes, a quiet strength that had replaced the earlier frantic ambition. The last game of the season arrived, another frigid Indiana night. Min-ji sat in the bleachers, bundled in her thickest coat, the cold seeping through the concrete. The JV team was down by 1 point, seconds left on the clock. Jun, still a benchwarmer for most of the game, was suddenly thrust into the fray due to a foul. The coach barked instructions. "Jun, hold the ball, last possession." Min-ji held her breath, her heart pounding. She watched as Jun dribbled, the clock ticking down. He drove towards the basket, drawing 2 defenders, but instead of forcing a shot, he whipped a no-look pass to a teammate under the basket. The buzzer blared. 2 points. A win. The crowd erupted, but Jun wasn't celebrating wildly. He just nodded, a quiet satisfaction on his face, as he walked over to high-five his teammate. Min-ji saw it then, truly saw it. Her son, not the flashy scorer, not the headline grabber, but the steadfast presence, the unseen force that had helped steer his team to victory. He had become indispensable, not by being the star, but by understanding the profound power of his unseen labor. The chill of the Indiana winter still bit, but in that moment, a warmth spread through Min-ji, a quiet, profound grace, a testament to the unseen rhythms of life and the enduring strength of a mother's vulnerable heart.